So I'm going to make it easy on me and stay in the same file, but just create new artboards. So I'm going to go to File, Document Setup. I'm going to go to Edit Artboard. So I'm going to be able to create a new artboard. I'm going to create it the same size as this, but I'm going to end up doubling it. So now I'm going to go to Edit Artboards again. I'm going to, oops, sorry. Document Setup, Edit Artboards. To adjust my artboard, I'm going to double the size. And you'll have exact sizes for the sticker if you go through the manufacturer. Okay, so this is going to be the back. So that's actually going to be upside down. So I'm going to go ahead and flip all of this upside down. So I'm going to select all, go to Object, Transform. I'm just going to do a 180 rotate. I could do it manually, or I can just do it exact like that and do a rotate. Or I could just take this tool and rotate it that way. So that will be upside down. And now we got to go grab our right side up portion. So we need to unselect. I should have grouped this and had it on different layers, but that's okay. We all have our own way to do stuff. It's not always perfect. So instead of copying this, I'm just going to drag it up because we no longer need it on the bar anymore. I'm going to bring that up here. I need to make sure I double it. Of course, I don't have the exact sizing because I'm kind of doing this as a kind of a personal project. So I'm just going to make sure I get pretty close just to show you guys. You would have the exact size and pop it in the document. Okay, and so now I would ask the manufacturer kind of where does it fold, and he'll tell me, oh, it folds 5 inches or whatever measurement you use, so it folds 5 inches on the top. And so I would measure that and kind of put like a little indication of where it would fold right here, just for me, so I can know spacing, how to do everything. So that's where it folds. I'd make another line to indicate, I go, well, how thick is the bar? And they'll go, oh, it's 0.25 inches. And so I would just measure 2.5 inches between the spacing, and I would know that that's the top of the bar. So you're not going to see that from the front or the back, that'll be on the top. And there we go. So we have these two kind of extra boxes. We're going to need to combine those because we don't want to have this line here that ends here because we created a box to create this little line. So we don't want this line anymore. So let's go ahead and get rid of it. We may need to redraw. So I'm just going to ungroup. Go ahead and delete this box. And I'm just going to take this top box and drag it down here. So this is for our backside line. So now we have some nice consistency there. So if I go ahead and delete this, you can see how there is the, let me go and zoom out. There's the bottom, there's the, going to be the top, that little area, and then the back will fold backwards. So this is exactly how you'd present it to the printer, not really the client. The client will see a proof from the printer, so, and they've already approved your design. So you're just trying to make it actually come to life. So I'm just making some small adjustments I've had to make for sizing, because what we had before was just a mock-up, it wasn't exact. Now we have to be exact. So there we go. There is our first adhesive label sticker that will go on the front of the bar. And so now we're going to do the sticker that wraps around. But first, I'm going to go ahead and prepare this. So we don't need the drop shadow, that was just to present to the client. So we want to bring our pattern all the way up to the top. So this will be what's actually printed on the wrapper. So we're going to provide it just like this. The green indicates where the center is, which will be the front, and the left and right indicates what will be wrapped around, and you'll get the sizing from the template. So that's ready. This is just for my own use. So I can put this on a different layer. I can cut. And same goes for this little indication. This is just for me as a designer to know where things fold. So I'm just cutting those elements out and adding a new layer and just pasting them back in. Oops. I'm going to do paste in place, so it pastes right where I cut it off. Paste in place. And I'm just going to lock that layer, and I'm going to name it, let's see, indications where bleed is, or so whatever you want to indicate. Okay, so now I can toggle that off and on if I don't want that to get in the way of me studying the design. So I can toggle that off and go, okay, great. That's where it cuts off. So now this is ready, that's ready to go. And so we just have to do one more element, and that is the sticker that goes across. So we would get the sizing of the sticker and what's the length that needs to be to wrap around appropriately. And we would work with the printer on that sizing and with the client. So I'm going to go to edit artboards. We're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to create a new artboard right down here. We're going to double the size, where I think it may need to wrap around a little further because we want it to seal the chocolate bar. So it may need to go out a little further on the back to seal the bottom part of where the chocolate bar folds. Okay, and I don't think these are the same color. So I'm just kind of doing some final tweaks here when I'm noticing things like that and making that the right shade. Making sure alignment is proper. This is when we do all of our really final tweaks. And so that's pretty much it. I would find the center point of this and find out how thick the bar is, which we would know from studying the thickness of the top of the bar up here. So we know it's going to be about that thick. So that means it's also going to be that thick here. So I'm just going to transform, rotate it 90 degrees. I can have a vertical up and down. I would find the exact center of that point, put it there. So this is just my indication of where it's going to fold. And it might even be thicker than that in real life. You know, it could be a very thick chocolate bar, it could be that thickness. And that will help me determine where to place my 82 to know how far it wraps. It'll be stuck on here. And then we removed all the linen texture because that was just for presentation purposes. And we would talk with the printer and the client about what's the quality of the sticker adhesive. Do we want to do like a linen blend for the sticker and have a cool texture on it? Do we just want a slick UV gloss finish? Do we want all these different kinds of finishes you can get with printed materials and products? And you would work that out. But we don't have to put that in the design because that's going to be the material that's going to naturally create that texture. But we do want to keep this because this will be just a printed matte kind of finish. We don't need this little highlight anymore. So there we go. So I would just go back in. I would make sure this is perfectly center along with this. I would just kind of double check my guidelines. Send this to the printer, have them do a test run to see how it looks because you may be off a little bit and you have to go back and do some adjustments. That's very common. So I'm going to delete all this extra stuff. And I have my things ready. I'm going to go ahead and toggle the lines off because the printer does not need those. They already have that information. And I would go to File, Export, and Export As. You could do a couple things. A lot of times they like to have a vector file, so send them an EPS and they would just have this file and they'll be able to adapt it to get it print ready. Or you could do a PDF. Let's see, File, Save As. There it is, PDF. Go ahead and send that to my desktop. And I'm going to go ahead and unclick Preserve Illustrator Editing Capabilities because that makes the file very, very large. And since this is press ready and ready to go, you don't need to have editing capabilities unless the printer requests like an EPS, and that will give them editing capabilities. So let's do, I have a press quality, so let's do that and then unclick. You can click on that. It just gives them the ability to go in and edit it. But if this is final, we don't need to edit it anymore. We don't need trim marks unless they request it. They may need trim marks around this wrapper. And so let's say they need a 1/8 inch bleed around the wrapper. Let's go ahead and add that just to kind of see what we're doing here. So document setups, you can add a bleed. Let's say that's 1/8 of an inch. Of course, you may have centimeters. And it adds 1/8 of an inch to that. So I'm just going to go ahead and just make sure my document extends all the way out past the bleed so that when they print it, they can trim that little bit of extra off and have a nice smooth cut. Same thing with this. So I'm just going to drag it up, drag it down, select the next object below, which is our red background, bring that down and bring that up. Okay, so now we can export. And here's where, okay, so they may not need bleed on the adhesive stickers, but they may need it. If they do need bleed on the stickers, then that's great. Adding bleed to the when you add bleed to one document, it adds bleed to all the artboards, even if you don't need it on a certain artboard. So if you find out that your stickers don't need bleed, then you can open up a new document and put your stickers there and not have the bleed. Because I think with Illustrator, if you apply bleed, that's it. It's on all artboards. You can't like have one without and one with. Okay, so document setup. Just kind of double checking my artboards. Okay, so let's export and be done. So I'm going to save as PDF. Of course, you could also do EPS, whatever they request. Press quality. I'm going to uncheck that to keep the file size down. I'm going to go to, sometimes they like print trim marks. I'm going to use document bleed settings. We already set that up. So 0.25 all the way across, or you could just do it manually. So 0.25 all the way across on each side. That's 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Trim marks. I usually do trim marks on printed products pieces, but I don't do trim marks on magazine ads. For some reason, people don't like to have trim marks on magazine ads because then they have to go in and remove it. But for something like this, I like trim marks, but ask the printer. They will gladly share their preference with you. Click OK. So it's going to do 3 PDFs. Probably all in the same. Did it do it in chocolate bar? Let's see. PDF. There it is. So let's go ahead and double click and see what it looks like. And you're seeing my entire process. I'm not leaving anything out of this. All the nitty-gritty details that are somewhat boring sometimes, but necessary for a new designer to go through and learn. It took me a couple of years to learn how printers like things, what bleed is, crop marks, all those. It took me a while to kind of learn that. So hopefully you'll be able to kind of see this applied to a real project. So there's our wrapper that will wrap around the chocolate bar. There is our, and looks like there's a little bit of a drop shadow here. I just need to go in and remove the drop shadow. That was just for presentation, so I'll remove that. This is our adhesive sticker label that will wrap around the bar, the top to the back, and then our little adhesive sticker on the front that will wrap around to the back. And there we go. This is our final bar design. I'm very happy with it. I'm excited. I wish it would become a real chocolate bar. I would love if a client would approach me with a chocolate bar design project. That'd be so much fun. But I've done a lot of other product designs very similar to this. So this is the process roughly that I would go to. So thank you for staying tuned. I know it was a little bit of a longer course or lessons to kind of go through this project, but you get to see all the nitty-gritty details of a real practical project that you would have a good chance of doing in your job. So let me know what project you want to work on next. I love creating extra bonus content and new projects all the time. So just let me know what you're curious about creating, and I had a lot of fun. So thank you so much for tuning in.